Imagine being one of the greatest football nations in your region, and yet it's been decades since you lifted a major trophy. Ever wondered which countries have been waiting the longest for glory? Stick around, because today we're counting 10 national sides who've passed 40, 50, even 60 years without major silverware. But before we dive in, if you love football stories like this, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. In the world of international football, trophies matter. They're more than hardware. They're proof of success, belief, legacy. Some nations pace the stadiums, the fans roar, and yet the celebratory lift of a major trophy just doesn't happen. That's what we call a trophy drought. And some of the droughts we'll cover today are humongous. Iran. Let's begin with Iran, a nation with serious footballing history. They used to dominate the region, and they even had the legendary striker Ali Daei, 108 goals in 148 appearances. But their last major triumph, the 1976 Asian Cup, won at home. Since then, despite talent and ambition, no major trophy. The 48-year wait is real. Czech Republic, formerly Czechoslovakia. Next, the Czech Republic. Technically the legacy of Czechoslovakia, but since the split, they've held their own. They reached finals and semi-finals in the Euros, but they can't replicate the 1976 triumph of Czechoslovakia. So yes, roughly another 48-year drought. Morocco. Over to Africa. Morocco, a country that stunned the world by finishing fourth at the 2022 World Cup. Yet their last major continental title, the Africa Cup of Nations back in 1976 or so. So despite world-class nights, the trophy cabinet has been dusty. Peru moving to South America. Peru, once the first nation to win the Copa America in the modern era in 1975. But since then, a long dry spell. They did reach the 2019 final, and that gave hope, but still no silverware to ease the drought. DR Congo, formerly Zaire. Back in the 1960s and 70s, they were one of Africa's pioneers, producing legends like Joseph Mayanga, Mwepu Ilunga. Their last AFCON win, 1974. Since then, plenty of talent, lots of potential, but no trophy to match that golden era. Sudan. Once a powerhouse in African football, they lifted the AFCON in 1970 on home soil. But since then, political instability, economic issues, and infrastructure problems have hampered their efforts. Result, 54 years and counting without another major piece of silverware. England, yes, the Three Lions. They stood on top of the world in 1966. Since then, no major trophy. They reached the Euro 2024 final, but were beaten by Spain. That means the wait now stretches towards 6 decades. Israel, a nation whose football story is entwined with history and politics. Their last major title, the 1964 Asian Cup. Since then, their football fortunes have never quite aligned to bring home the big one. That's around 60 years without a major trophy. Ethiopia. Once they won the AFCON back in 1962. Since then, they haven't really featured on the global stage in the way many would expect. No World Cup qualification beyond early stages of AFCON in years. A 62-year wait is a long time in football. South Korea. Finally, number 1 on the list, South Korea, a country with a serious football pedigree. Big names, big moments, for example, the heroics in World Cups. Yet their last Asian Cup triumph, 1960. That's right, 64 years and counting. It's fair to say they're Asia's equivalent of England when it comes to droughts. Over. So there you have it. 10 nations who've done everything right. Talent, fans, infrastructure, history, but still missing that glimmering trophy. Why do these droughts persist? It could be a mix of things. High expectations, generational talent without a full team around them, strong continental rivals, and sometimes off-field issues. What I want to know from you, which of these nations do you think is most likely to end their drought first, and why? Drop your pick in the comments below. If you enjoyed this countdown, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends who love football, and if you haven't already, click subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss these kinds of football deep dives. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.